All right. Now we're getting to the good stuff. How do I make a book? This physical product. It comes from here, goes on a notepad, and suddenly it turns into this. How does that happen? I talked about the different methods. You have the traditional publishing, where you get an agent. The agent shops your work, which is what they call it. And the traditional publishing houses, most of them in New York, they give you an advance, they give you a deal, and the book comes out 2 to 3 years later. Then we have the hybrid method, as I talked about with Greenleaf Book Group and other folks who you would pay them X amount of dollars. They say, hey, we'll hook you up with the editor. We might even get you a ghostwriter. We'll do everything for you, but you pay them a certain amount of money. And then it's like the traditional publishing system after that. Today, the focus is on the third way, the way that I've taken for the last 10 or so years of my book career, which is doing it independently. If you're going to be doing it independently, as I hinted at earlier, there's 2 magic things you need. You need a cover designer and you need an editor. It's like the whole old lawyer saying, a lawyer that represents him or herself has a fool for a client. If you're going to be going on your own, there's going to be no checks and balances. Amazon or whatever, they're not going to be here to help you. If you publish your book and there's 200 errors in it and misspellings and it's not factually correct, they're going to be like, cool, it costs $20. If you guys want to buy it, you can buy it. Oh, you bought one? All right, cool. And then the writers or the readers are going to be coming after you, which I've done errors in my book. You do not want that. I'm still living down from the first edition of books I did years ago. I swear. And they keep coming up in the reviews and I'm like, man, I made a mistake. But that's the risk that you make when you go independent. So you're gonna need a cover designer. This cover designed by my good friend Beck Loss. Shout out to Beck. If you want to get connected with Beck and you like the covers that she's designed for me, drop me a line, drop something in the comments, email me, come to DamonBrown.net and message me, whatever. I'm happy to connect you with Beck. Love her work. She did this book cover. And then you also need an independent editor. My independent editor for all my books has been Jeanette Hurt. Shout out to Jeanette. Her name might sound familiar because we did a book a handful of years ago. I told you all 40 books are still on my desk from the other episode a couple of days ago. You know what I'm going to be doing after this live stream is over. All right. Our book, The Passive Writer. Might look familiar. Me and Jeanette on the cover. She's an awesome editor. If you want to connect with Jeanette, you can actually go to JeanetteHurt.com. Hurt like hurt yourself. JeanetteHurt.com, or DM me or message me. I'm happy to connect you with Jeanette. Fantastic editor. Thank you, both of you, for doing all that fantastic work. I've worked with them. So essentially, I've assembled a team to make sure I get what I need to make sure that the book is where it needs to be. Because you're independent. If you're going to be doing independent stuff, you got to make sure that your stuff is straight. You got to make sure that your cover design is good. You got to make sure that your editor is good. When it comes to actually doing the book and making the book, you have a few different options. You can go to a local printer, and some of my relatives, including my dad, who self-published books back in the day, that was the main choice that they had. So you might have the same printer that you would go to, even go into like a Staples or a Kinko's now. Like a Kinko's, look at Kinko's FedEx. They can publish your book too, if you just want a bunch of copies printed. That's going to be more expensive up front, but you can do what you like and print literally as many copies as you want. In that case, it's not going to be necessarily in the publishing system. It's going to be something that you print. Another option is to actually go print on demand. Print on demand means that you set up something, usually through an online shop, and I'll give some other options here, online shop, and then whenever someone asks for the book, they will literally print it on demand and then ship the book to them. That's called fulfillment. Sometimes they do the fulfillment, sometimes they do not. But they will print the book on demand. If you want extra copies, they'll also do print on demand. A lot of the books that I do with my imprint are print on demand because it's way more feasible. Usually don't have to do imprint upfront money with it. And then literally you print as you go. What's nice is that print on demand used to really suck. Going 10, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, around the time I first started getting into publishing. Now with technology and all those things, they've improved so much. It's definitely something worth checking out. So again, you have those options of doing the local printer, and you also have the options of doing the the print on demand. And then if you're going to take your own particular route on it, that means all those little business details need to be fulfilled by you. There's not, again, you need to get your own editor, get your own cover designer. It also means you need to get the details together to make sure that your stuff is tight. So your first stop, as far as making a book, you're like, Damon, I love my book idea. I got a cover designer, I got an editor who I haven't paid them yet, but they're willing to work on it with me. And I think my writing is going to be good, but I want to get it out. The first thing you want to do is get over to Bowker's. And let me make sure that you guys can see. There it is. Still working. Again, keep an eye on the technology today because acting a little funky. All right. Hopefully you guys can see it. Give a shout in the chat if you have any issues. This is Bowker's. It's BOWKER.com. This is Bowker Identifier Services. Let's get scientific with it here. This thing right here at the very top, this is called an ISBN. I forget what it stands for, but it's on the Bowker's website. International something. But it's a book number, probably the BN, that identifies each book. Literally every book. You can consider it, if you're here in America, it's like a social security number for your book. And only one exists. This only exists for Jeanette and I's book, The Passive Writer. Nobody else can use this. Until the end of the time, this will be our number. This is ISBN. It's usually either 10 numbers or 13 numbers, but it's pretty interchangeable. Usually you end up getting both. If you end up going to a printer, like a print on demand service, like Amazon, which I'll get into in a second, or one of those, they're going to ask you, do you have your own ISBN? If you say no, they will give you an ISBN, but the ISBN will be under their company, not yours. In other words, it's equivalent of you having a kid and then them being like, well, did you want to get a social security number or did you want to just get the hospital's social security number? And it's like, I'll just get a social security number from the hospital. Well, that sounds complicated to me. So that's not really yours. That's not part of your family. It's actually owned by the hospital. For this book is under my name because it's under my publishing company, which is Bring Your Worth Publishing, under Damon Brown. That's because I own the ISBN number. And then Jeanette and I share the ownership because we're co-authors. That's what you do. ISBN numbers are super important because if you end up going to one of these print-on-demand services, or again, even Amazon, which I'll show in a second, and you go and say, I don't have an ISBN, why don't you give me yours? I'll get it for free. It's not really free because they technically own the Library of Congress, if you want to get fancy with it, rights to that particular book. There's older books that I did where I didn't know that, and I had to go back, do second editions, and figure it out to make sure it was under my family name. This is where you get the ISBN number. This is where you get it. And then if you look up this ISBN right now at the Library of Congress, they have a website, it'll say Damon Brown under there. This is where it begins. If you're gonna go do the independent route, get your ISBNs. This will be probably the most expensive thing that you will buy, next to perhaps a really good editor, but it's so worthwhile. So let's go through this real quick. Bowkers.com are the people that organize the ISBNs, at least here in America. There might be some other stuff overseas, but it's legal overseas as well. This is their identifier services. You can buy your ISBNs here. Then give a shout if you have any issues with reading the text on there. So here's the tricky part. Right here, I don't think you can see my mouse, but you see the beige area where it has 10 ISBNs and the gray area at the bottom where it says one ISBN, all the way on the right-hand side. This is key. I've had conversations about authors who have lamented about this. We've joked about it. This is one of those things that you want to pay attention to. You can buy one ISBN for $125. Sounds expensive, but again, you're making sure that you own your intellectual property, right? Or you can buy 10 ISBNs for $295. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's $300. In this economy, I know it's a lot of money. and you're like, I only want to do one book, Damon, I'm going to do the one ISBN. Or do you? What I found with the hundreds of people that I've coached, helping them get their books out, they'll be public speakers who are considering doing a book, people who are new to books. I've found this time and time again. Many of us do not get a book out. But if we do get a book out, chances are we're going to be doing more than one. One of my first books, I thought it was going to be one and done. I'm like Jay-Z. It's like, I'm going to do Reasonable Doubt, and then I'm going to ride off in the sunset. I'm going to do Illmatic, shout out to Nas, and I'm going to go, no. Here I am, 27 books in, 27 next month. I would highly recommend, if you plan on doing any kind of writing, to just get the 10. I bought 10 probably 3-4 years ago, and I was watching my money too, and I'm still using those ISBNs. And like I said, I've done several books. I'm still not out of ISBN numbers. Otherwise, if it's 10 ISBNs I'd have to buy a la carte, you're talking $125. Once you set up the ISBNs, and they have a little video here, I will not play it. But once you set up the ISBNs, I don't think you're gonna need 100, so you probably let that one go. If I do all these books and you don't need and I don't need 100, you're probably good. But once you set that up, and you can click on the website, the links are below, and I won't go through the whole thing. Once you set that up, though, then you can go ahead and put in the details. You can put in the ownership. You can say the authors. You can put the cover designer. Again, my cover designer is Beck Loss. Like all that, we call it metadata. All that metadata can go in there. That metadata actually goes to the Library of Congress, and it also makes it easier for bookstores when they have your book to know where your book belongs. My book works under self-help. My book works under entrepreneurship, obviously, with the work that I do. It works under small business and coaching. All those categories are listed under the ISBN. So it's not just you owning the intellectual property to the books that you create. It's also a matter of you categorizing things so your books end up literally at the right place. I remember making a mistake with my metadata, and my book ended up being somewhere else in the bookstore where I didn't want it to be. So this is all tied together. Key part of it, get your ISBN together. Once you get your ISBN together, then you have plenty of options. So again, back to the tech stuff. All right. So the first stop that you should make if you're going independent is Ingram Spark. Again, give a shout in the comments if you can't see that. There we go. Ingram Spark. Ingram and Bowker's are kind of like the twins of the American, and I would even argue to a certain extent the international publishing system. Well, Bowker's, suddenly New Jersey accent's coming out. Bowker's, there we go. Bowker's is focused on the ISBNs and getting the numbers together. Ingram is often set up with the printing and the distribution. Ingram Spark is your opportunity to actually publish a book and then actually get it to the bookstores. And so there's pricing with it, but just recently, like I said, within the last 2 months, they went completely free. So if you want to get a book on there, you would go ahead and design your book. That's where the cover designer, all those things would help. You follow their particular format. You say how long the book is going to be. You set up when the book is going to be released. And then once you set that up, then you upload those files. It's just like doing a website. You upload those files. They go and check the files, and they're like, hey, you're good to go. Your book will come out next amount of days. When it comes to releasing your book, quick sidebar. The rule is 3 to 6 months in advance, you want to let people know. I let y'all know about the complete Bring Your Worth collection at the top of the summer, and the book is going to come out around Halloween here in America. So I let y'all know about 4 months in advance. A few things happen with that. First of all, it gives the bookstores enough time to get a copy of your book to actually have it on the shelves because they need to ship it. The second thing that it does is that it gives the media enough time. So there's podcasts I'm going to be on. There's people that have had an early copy of the book. There's interviews and discussions I've been having with people behind the scenes since I announced the book. I think I announced the book like in June. So when the book comes out October 20th, there's at least a few things set up so that people know about the book. There might be reviews of the book, those kinds of details. So you want to, as soon as you know that your book is in really good shape, then you want to think about where you want it to come out 3 to 6 months from now, at least. Maybe even longer if you're a new author, because that'll give you enough time to promote your book, to get the book to the people that you might really be interested in, to get blurbs for the book. Again, I was lucky enough to get a blurb from Stephen Pressfield for my latest book. That took time. I had to talk to him ahead of time. He had to say, yeah, let's talk about it. I had to send him a copy of the book. And then he's like, yeah, I'll say this about the book. That exchange took a minute. Not a long time, but it took a minute. You don't want to do that at the last minute. Ingram Sparks should be your first stop. What's important with Ingram Sparks, this is a key point here, is that as you do it through Ingram Sparks, you can actually set up where you want it to go, including on Amazon. So when I did the complete Bring Your Worth collection, within about 2 to 3 weeks, it automatically appeared on Amazon with the pricing, with the setup, with the launch, again, back to the metadata. You want this to be your first stop. If your first stop is Amazon, then that means that book might only be on Amazon. And guess what? Amazon doesn't have bookstores. So if you want your book to physically be in bookstores, start with Ingram Spark. There's other options, but this is absolutely my favorite. They're a little rough in the past, and there are other choices such as CreateSpace, but this one though is the joint that I would highly recommend you go with. I do not have any special links or any deals, but it's really affordable. And then they end up taking the money for when you print. Again, this is a print on demand option. So that means someone asks for the books, someone buys it on Amazon, someone pre-orders it. When that money comes through, you get your cut of it. And if you're doing a traditional publishing deal, again, with the big guys in New York, then you're looking at you maybe getting maybe 5-6% of the cover price. So if it's a $10 book, you're getting 50 cents per book. If you're doing the independent route, like with Ingram Spark, and you have a $10 book, then you might be getting, say, 30% of the cover price, or $3 per book. So you might not have the recognition or the media heft or the promotion that you would have at a traditional book publisher, which that's up for debate. That'll be another episode. But if you do it independently, you can, again, get the lion's share of the money coming through there. Ingram Spark, I found, is the best route if you're going to go independent. All right, so once you do Ingram Spark, then your last stop, your very last stop, is Mr. Bezos. And that's at kdp.amazon.com. Happen to be in the US, but it'll set you up no matter what area you're in. I sell books in Brazil, Japan. Shout out to my folks in India. I sell books all over the place. So Amazon's set up in that way. Do not think it's just an American company. KDP is the platform. People sometimes get confused because they think KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is just about the Kindle. It's actually not true. You can actually have the physical stuff on there too. KDP is a way for you to have digital versions of your physical books. And often they'll go ahead and take the same files or very similar files to what you uploaded to, say, Ingram Spark on Kindle. You also can connect your physical book to your Kindle book here on KDP and have them both show up in the same area. That's really important. The Kindle version of the complete Bring Your Worth collection will be out soon, but as soon as I go and upload that, then it's going to be on that exact same page, the exact same page that you would find the physical copy. So they be paired together. Amazon, whether you love them or hate them, are still the leading publishing platform where people get their books. It's just a fact. I want to say 60 to 70% still. Bookshop.org, I shouted them out at the beginning. I love them. My bookshop at bookshop.org is in the link below. You get all my books there. I love to support them. And also, from a market standpoint, Amazon is still running things. So If you want to make sure your book gets as much exposure as possible, you want to do the Amazon route as well. Going back to doing Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark, depending on what buttons you click, and it's all right there. It's fairly straightforward, that part at least. It will automatically show up on goodreads.com. It'll automatically show up at bookshop.org. It'll show up at barnesandnoble.com. Shout out to Barnes & Noble. I've been an author with them for a couple of years, quite a few years. And so it'll automatically show up there. You don't have to worry about that. Amazon, though, has its own ecosystem. Be sure and check out the KDP program if you want to have a digital version of your book, and or if you do a digital version of your book, and make sure that it's tied to the physical version of your book that you've already done. Key parts of it.